We've got 6 people here. Hi, everyone. Welcome. We are recording. So it starts auto recording. If everyone who just joined, go ahead and type a greeting in the chat, or you can raise your hand virtually and we will unmute and you can say hi that way, but chat works. We'll let people roll in. We'll start in about 1 minute.
Is chat enabled for them?
It should be. Let's see. If not,
because it was a webinar. We set it up as a webinar. So
okay.
Okay.
Should be.
Okay.
Yeah, everyone who's joined, if you can type in the chat, just type a hello. Okay, perfect. Chat works. Type a hello. Let us know you're here. Welcome, everyone. We're going to be starting expanding learning pathways, LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, and other micro-credentials in this session. We'll get started in just a minute. We're so glad you could join us on this melting Wednesday. We're so glad it's melting and thawing out. Hopefully we can all get out of our houses today. Yeah, thanks for joining us. Okay, we've got quite a group. It looks like we've got about 20 people joining us, and we're admitting people now as they roll in. So let's get started. So hi everyone. We are the Center for Research on Teaching and Learning Excellence, and today we're happy to present this topic with wide interest: expanding learning pathways, LinkedIn Learning, Coursera, and micro-credentials. We have 5 panelists today that attended and spent time learning about micro-credentials in 2024 with our Summer Institute. And so we'll tell you about that. We also want you to note the chat window. The chat window will have links and things. And so the purpose of our webinar is to continue the dialogue about micro-credentials and to see what we can learn and share with one another. So these are often tied to industry. They're great for workforce preparation. Some of them will help students while they're learning here at UTA. So they have benefit to their learning here and beyond UTA. So they're usually shortish. Each panelist will tell you what they did, kind of approximately how much time it took for students, and then how they created an assignment, and maybe even grading that type of thing. So it enhances engagement and active learning. And again, everyone here was from that 2024 cohort, and I was in that group as well. So it was a great way to learn from each other, as with all faculty groups, just pick each other's brains. So would everyone go kindly introduce yourself in the chat? This is optional, and our panelists too. Include what you hope to learn, or if you're a panelist, just tell us what your department is. And if you're a participant, tell us what your department is, what you hope to learn, and your experience with micro-credentials, if any, or you can just put none. So let's give everybody a minute to do that. And again, we are recording this, so if you know people that weren't able to join, they can watch it later. We'll also do a recap post, and we'll put it on our Pedagogy Next blog, so stay tuned. So let's just kind of take a minute, look in the chat. But it's always great to see people from different departments. And before we start, Beth or Nikisha, do you want to mention anything before we launch in? Okay, we're all here to learn. Great to see people engineering, hospitality management. Let's see. We got panelists. So yeah, just take a minute to look there. We'll keep moving forward because we've got a lot. So these are our panelists. They're from all different departments. And again, the 2024 Microcredential Institute was something where we learned together. We explored, how am I going to integrate a microcredential into my course? How do I onboard students? How do I assess it? How do I create learning outcomes? How do I align it with what I'm teaching already, and that kind of thing, and that it will really prepare them for the workforce. We do want to share with you that there is a free microcredential course on microcredentials from UT System. And it's pretty quick. Does anybody who has taken it, do you want to comment on this? Like, did you find it useful? I think it's like 4 to 6 hours or less, not even that. There's like 4 modules and you just complete it. And then you can say, I've learned about microcredentials. So that's free. It's again through the UT system. So I just want to mention that. And I want to make a real quick plug for AQ. We've been members of AQ for years. Some of you have been through the AQ program, but AQ is rolling out broader access to what's known as the AQ Commons. So we're going to put the link in the chat in just a second. But if you have your phone handy, grab this QR code because you can create an account for the AQ Commons. And Nikisha just put that link in the chat. Do you want to mention anything about the Commons, Nikisha? We're just getting people more on board with it beyond those who are doing AQ.
No, it's a great resource. There's a lot of courses on there, just a lot of information. Plus, UTA has a page on there so that you can join with your other colleagues and we can connect together as well.
Yeah, definitely. So some of you have done the ET 101, Effective Teaching 101 short course. Some of you are in or have done the longer full-blown certificate, but this is just a virtual community and the quick courses are short, micro-learning, etc. So stay tuned for those. And then let me just fast forward. So you do need to create an account. It's not hard, and then it will create your own dashboard in AQ so you can access the Commons. We'd really love to see people do that AI course. I think that one looks like a great one. So artificial intelligence in higher ed, and they call them endorsements, but it's really a micro-credential. So again, let's jump back to our panel. Also, we're going to put the slides for today in the chat in just a minute. So meet the panelists, and then Shelley Wigley, Masoud Rostami, Bonnie Boardman, Christy Spivey, and Louise Perez Cortez. So let's jump in and we'll start with Dr. Shelley Wigley from Department of Communication. She's also a CERTL faculty facilitator.
Hi, thanks Peggy for having me on the panel. Yes, I teach public relations in the Department of Communication, and since I was part of the Microcredential Institute, I have implemented microcredentials every semester since then. So I'm happy to be here. Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. So here we go. You're first, and then we'll launch into our next. Yeah. Keep going.
I'm sorry about that. So I teach a capstone course, Public Relations Campaigns, which is very hands-on. It functions like a PR agency would. So we have different departments that are made up of students. We have different leads. We have account directors, team leads. So what I had noticed over semesters is that sometimes there's some problem with communication, even though they are communication majors, and also just handling conflicts and people speaking up, not speaking up. And so I decided to implement a microcredential with the purpose of them learning some new soft skills, but also having the semester go a lot smoother because we do a lot and it's all hands-on and they're working with each other throughout the semester. So I chose a microcredential from LinkedIn Learning, and I'm biased, I guess, because I always use LinkedIn Learning. I know that there are others out there through Coursera and things, and but I just really like how LinkedIn Learning, it's very, very simple, easy to use, and so that's what I relied on. So if we can go to the next slide.
Yes.
So this is just the setup of what the class looks like. It's generally about 20 students approximately. So I chose the first semester that I implemented a microcredential, the Essential Business Communication Skills Professional Certificate by LinkedIn Learning. And you can see the different modules they have there, things like effective listening, conflict resolution, things that I felt like students really needed to have before they work together in this large group with these subgroups throughout the semester. So it was kind of selfish, I guess, on my part too, because I wanted things to go smoother. But then there were things like digital body language and communicating about culturally sensitive issues. So it was really good for students. They got some business professional acumen so to speak, but also they learned how to relate to each other. I think there's one on emotional intelligence. It's not showing up here, but that was one of them as well. And I believe it was 7 hours. And what I did, I think we can go to the next slide. What I did was I packed this all in like the first 2 or 3 weeks of the semester. I was strategic because I wanted them to learn those skills before they were having to, really get involved with the hands-on learning and so forth, and really, working with each other. So it was a lot for the first 2 or 3 weeks. There were 9 modules, as I said, 7 hours, 34 minutes total content. Another thing I love with LinkedIn, completely free. The students need to log in with their UTA email in order for it to show that they completed it in Canvas. So that's something to consider and navigate as well. Also, the I assigned and completed, or they were assigned and completed through the first 5 weeks of the semester. There were brief quizzes throughout the modules, which they had to, complete. And of course, it's synced with UTA Canvas Gradebook, which was wonderful. And I don't know if all of the ones on LinkedIn Learning are like this, but most of the ones that I have used, they have to pass a final exam. They have 3 tries to get 70% or above. And I required them to do that. I think it was worth 100 points. And I had 20 of 21 students that successfully completed and earned the certificate. And of course, I encouraged them, to promote it on their LinkedIn as well. And I would, celebrate and cheer them on when they did that. So that's another feature I really like with LinkedIn Learning. We can go to the next one. Oh, multiple. Yeah, it's primarily multiple choice questions, and they have to earn at least 70%. They have 3 tries. So, okay, so here are my tips for implementing. Complete the microcredential before you assign it. I think that's really important to know what your students are going to be, taking in. Does it fit with what you were wanting them to know? Decide where it fits best within your course. Is it something that they're going to need to accomplish something else? Is it something that can be done towards the end? Utilize CDE, instructional design staff. I always have to shout out Melissa Roach. She's wonderful. She always answers questions and I bug her a lot, but they're wonderful and they're so helpful. Also, this is a big tip too. Discuss and recap the covered content during your classes. So you don't want students to feel like, oh, this is busy work for us, it doesn't matter. So one thing I did the first semester that I did not follow my own advice in a future semester, and I wish I would have, but the first semester, after every module, we'd come into class and I would, have a discussion about, okay, what did you learn? And I think that really helps students pay more attention to the microcredential and what they're actually learning and what they're taking from it. So I highly recommend that, either through a discussion board, which with AI now, those aren't the best ideas, but just having some prompts and in-class discussion, I think is really helpful and important, and helps students realize what they've learned and connect those dots. So additionally, discuss the purpose. Why are you having them do this? This generation's all about, there needs to be a why. Why am I doing this? How's it going to help me? How is it going to help me succeed in the course? So really emphasizing this isn't just busy work, and it's not just something that I don't want to teach you. There's a reason behind it. Something I do is emphasize that this microcredential is replacing work that you previously assigned in class. So I took away some things that I had students do prior, and I explained that and why, and told them why it was important to finish this microcredential. And then also there's a report that we got, there's probably an updated one now, when we did the Microcredential Institute, which talked about how employers view microcredentials, that they think they're important. So really emphasize that to students. I actually showed they had like survey data that talked about how employers view those microcredentials. And then also, like I said, encourage them to put this on their resumes, to promote it on their LinkedIn profiles. And then the last thing I wanted to add is be flexible from semester to semester. So I changed it up a little bit this semester for PR campaigns. I am having them choose their own adventure. So they what I did when I was deciding what to do this semester, we have identified an area where our students are not as strong as we would like them to be once they graduate, and that's actually with public speaking. They are required to take a couple of courses, but they just need more work and they need to get more familiar with that. So I have implemented that into the course this semester. So I think when you decide what micro-credential or trying to decide, make sure that it's something that is going to help them. Maybe it's a skill they need to brush up on or something that you want them to know that they're not getting maybe in other courses. So, and explain that to them. I think that's really important. So results, as I said, 20 of 21 students earned the micro-credential, which was great. There was no drama, major conflicts or issues between students or the teams for that semester. So I feel like that was a big win and a plus because that's what I wanted to happen. I did see lots of them, promoting it on their LinkedIn, which was great. The students were productive, effective, and it was a successful student-run agency. And the client was extremely happy. And it's like one of my favorite semesters ever that I did this with this group of students. So. And then I'll just share briefly some of the student feedback survey comments that I got. One of them was like, I like that there were trainings we got to do, and they felt like they wouldn't have done it on their own. So I think that's 100% correct there. They thought it was helpful and it taught them things that they had not been aware of before. And another one said they learned a lot about communication and how important it is to our industry. So that's my presentation, and I would be happy to answer questions either now or later on. So thank you.
Awesome. Virtual round of applause. Thank you so much, Dr. Wigley. We know you do a lot of innovations, and this is just one of many, right? So that's great. Awesome. Anybody have questions from the chat, or if you want to raise your hand, or if any of the other panelists have a question? I wanted to also acknowledge, I believe Dr. Patrick Wilson is here, and he's a big champion of microcredentials, so I just shout out to him. Erica, go ahead.
Hi, yes, my name is Erica. I work at the Smart Hospital, and we're looking at microcredentials for our pre-healthcare professionals. So Dr. Wigley, with your final exam, is that something that you created on your own and then integrated into Canvas, or were you able to pull questions from previous LinkedIn learning modules for the final exam for the learners?
So for this, the certification exam is created all by LinkedIn. So I didn't have to do anything. Students did it on their own. I didn't have all of the throughout each module, there's usually 2 or 3 questions that they call quizzes. And so students take those. And then at the very end, in order to actually get the certification that they can then promote on LinkedIn and so forth, it's a quiz, an exam, certification exam that LinkedIn comes up with. So you don't have to do anything, which is nice. But take it. I encourage you to take it.
And then LinkedIn also then generated the certification, as you mentioned.
Correct.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, it's great. I highly recommend it.
Awesome, thanks. Okay, good. We'll keep going. We will have time at the end. You can also add people, any of the panelists in the chat, and they'll be responding there too. So that's another great way to back channel. So we'll turn it over to Dr. Rostami. You're from the math department, is that correct? And he will go ahead and share, and I'll be doing slides for everyone today. We just put the slides in the chat as well, and a companion blog post.
Okay, I'm at Dr. Rostami in Data Science Division in College of Science. Okay, we have 2 data science and UTA. Before talking about the microcredential, I think I started taking the online courses of microcredential from 2015. I started the Coursera. There are some other platforms such as Udemy. There is a EDX or edX, they call it. edX, you can see a lot of Harvard courses, MIT courses, Stanford courses, and edX that still are free and a student can audit the courses. There are, if you're more tech or engineer, another one is a Udacity that can do more from Microsoft. Google has, the Intel has. Actually, the microcredential made me really interested in data science and go kind of study data science. That was the main reason. I got the scholarship from Microsoft. I got the microcredential from Microsoft. my journey start, kind of learning more about data science. I'm teaching 4 courses every semester, and every course I'm adding maybe 2 to 4 microcredentials to each courses. And especially in field of data science, because the way of the academic teaching and the kind of the industry, they're kind of growing so fast, I need kind of create a connection between academy and industry. That's what I really need to add some microcredential, especially for Coursera. And this semester I added more LinkedIn Learning to one of my courses. The certificate for the industry is so important. Later I'm going to explain, especially in case of putting the certificate in LinkedIn and show up the skill that they have. That's one of the main reasons. Really, my student need microcredential. I want to show that they're ready for the project that they're doing. Especially data science field is all project-based. So these courses normally make them ready. Please go next slide. Okay, so the course actually I was teaching this course before last previous semester was data mining course 3421. I integrate the IBM Data Science Professional Certificate. This professional certificate have 12 courses. During the last summer, I went through all that 12 courses. It took me about 2 months, one by one. I studied all the material. And based on whatever I was covering this course before, I see what are the gaps. I selected 3 courses from the professional certificate. As you see, data science methodology, data analysis with Python, and machine learning with Python. So 3 courses integrated to the data mining course I'm teaching. Next slide. So the way I wanted to integrate that Coursera with my Canvas, I was thinking, because each Coursera course has some modules, and each module has some graded quiz and project. I added as a module and each module as homework for weekly homework to the syllabus that I had. So each module 1 and 2, again later I'm going to show my syllabus, module 1 and 2 as homework for week 3, module 3 and 4 for week 4 homework. So end of the class we are done, they're going to get 3 certificates that can show up in the LinkedIn. Also, every time they're done with one of the module graded, the graded quiz is going to be appearing in Canvas after 24 hours. So everything is automatic. So when you connect your Canvas and the Coursera, the good thing after 24 hours after the student done, grade is going to be in the Canvas.
I have a quick question, Dr. Rostami and Shelley. When you integrated your course, when you integrated your microcredential to your gradebook, did you get help from Center for Distance Ed, or was that something you did on your own?
I did. They were very helpful. Yes,
Okay.
Melissa Roach and all of them. Yeah.
Especially the summer course we had, I think about 2 years ago, that was so helpful actually, how to integrate the Canvas and Coursera.
I just want to mention that to everyone. A lot of times it takes a village to do these things.
Yeah.
That's why we're here. Okay, keep going.
Especially connecting the Canvas and Coursera. When was it my first semester integrating Canvas and Coursera? Sometimes students take the quiz and the grade they couldn't appear even after 24 hours in the Canvas. Then maybe sometimes it takes 48 hours. Sometimes it automatically says, what is your grade? I add the grade to the Canvas. That was some of the issue I had integrating the Canvas and Coursera. So this is a summary of the course. So I mentioned the 3 courses added to the syllabus I had. Could you please go to the next? I want to just show how I integrate. So this is an example for week 2. So they normally have quiz, they have a lab. Also, as mentioned, as the homework 1, you guys have to go get the module 1 and 2 in this course, data science methodology. So they go to module 1, take the quiz, the grading quiz is going to be appearing in Canvas. Take the module 2, the grade is going to be appearing Canvas. For second homework 2, in the week of 3, same. Go to module 3 and 4. So by week 3, you're already done with the one of the courses in Coursera. Same for week 4. We're going to be data analysis with Python, module 1, 2. Then again, next slide is going to be week 5, I believe, week 6, module 3, 4, week 7, module 1 to 3 is another course. So week 8, another module I'm going to start. So they're already doing lab and quiz. So I have to give them a specific homework, but in this case, they see these courses as the homework, not the extra things. At the same time, also again, I'm going to get the final certificate too. Yeah. So yeah, for me, the easiest thing is again the Canvas still is the main things. Whatever they're doing the Coursera, they're going to be graded and going to be appear in the Canvas. So they don't need to upload anything or take the screenshot. Everything is kind of already integrated. It's easier kind of for, again, larger classes. I save a lot of my time, the TA time that we have. It's a good thing for a student too. All of the students, so if I had a 50 student, all of the 50 students at the end of the semester took 3 main certificates with the IBM company. And all of them, I remember, the LinkedIn, make them more marketable, make them work more kind of workforce readiness, in this case, for any job market that they want to apply. I really got a lot of good feedback, actually, because I was the first person starting data science, and after that, all my other colleagues starting. Even I'm doing a 4 course, and each course 3 or 4, I'm integrating more than 10 Microcredential courses to my courses. And next, maybe the last, again, I already talked about this again. It's so helpful during interview. Normal interview, ask them what was the important thing about these Microcredential courses, make them so much more ready to take just courses during the semester. Thank you. I believe it was the last one, correct?
I was on mute, sorry. Virtual round of applause for Dr. Rostami. It's great to see all these different disciplines. Thank you. Before we jump into Bonnie, any quick questions? We did have a question in the chat about difference between a badge, a credential, and a certificate. And my thinking, we were talking about this before this session started, and I believe the outcome, the learning can be the same, and sometimes the way they badge or certify it is just sort of semantics, if you will. In my opinion, I don't have an answer to this. I was wondering the same thing. Do any of our panelists have a thought on that? We were wading through that question as well, Dr. Stevan. Shelley, did you want to chime in?
Well, this is kind of related, something I thought of after I stopped talking, but I don't really understand the differences either. But I will say with LinkedIn Learning, like you can assign students to do individual modules, and those do not have an exam. They may have like 2 or 3 quiz questions, but if you want them to actually have a certification, which sounds more prestigious, you have to, when you go into LinkedIn Learning, you want to search for certifications, and it will list all the different modules that that come within that certification. Or you can just search LinkedIn Learning and you can pick individual modules where, again, students don't have to take a final exam for those. They just watch it, maybe answer some quiz questions, and they have that skill. So I wanted to differentiate between that two. If anyone has any questions or anything, you can reach out to me directly. I'm happy to walk you through it or share what I know about it.
One thing about the difference between LinkedIn Learning and Coursera, normally LinkedIn Learning, even you can skip the quizzes. And at the end, still you're going to get your white certificate. Doesn't matter. You take the quizzes, you answer the quizzes, you're going to get the certificate. But the Coursera, there are graded quiz, practice, ungraded quiz. There are 3 different versions of the question. Ungraded quiz or practice, really, you don't need to do anything. If you want for practice, yes. But graded quiz is important. You have to do it. But if you pass more than 80% of the quizzes, still you're going to get a certificate at the end for the Coursera. Same for LinkedIn Learning. LinkedIn Learning is, sorry, the Udemy or other. You just have to pass the item. You don't need to take a quiz.
Or pass fail.
Yeah,
exactly. Thanks. Luis, do you want to chime in too?
Yeah, I just wanted to say that I think one thing, I mean, depending on where you go to get the microcredential, certificate, or the badge, they might call it different things. But I think one thing that can universally be used to kind of communicate the amount of time you spent on the topic is exactly that, the amount of time. So you might have a badge that was earned in 2 hours. You might have a microcredential earned in 6 hours. And for the in the wide in a wide number of cases, whatever they give you will say the total hours, but in case they don't, that's could be something you use to communicate, the amount of time spent in something, which could communicate helpful information to someone who's looking at you and trying to figure you out and what are you an expert in and to how much. So that was just what I wanted to say.
4 months on it. Dr. Wilson, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying the program and what all of the presenters are sharing here. I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that we do have a Microcredentials governance committee that is meeting on a regular basis, that's working on developing some policy for UTA around what is a badge versus, what is a microcredential. And so you all are exactly right that it is a matter of semantics, but there needs to be some clarity at UTA about what the differences are between each of these so that we're all speaking a common language, and that work is ongoing. So more to come.
Oh, good. We'd love clarity. It's always good. Thank you so much. Masoud, real quick, and then we'll jump to Bonnie.
I know we don't have time, but there are so many versions of Microcredential. So especially in Coursera, you are going to see course, professional certificate, specialization. Professional certificate including maybe between 5 or 6 or 10, 12 courses. So when they get the certificate as a professional certificate, that company or the person that's going to interview is going to look at, okay, you already took 4 or 5 courses. LinkedIn courses are shorter. Even LinkedIn Learning has courses and learning path. Learning path is equal to professional certificate. So they are the different, but normally they don't put the hour, how many hours.
Different levels. Yeah, good. Yeah. Okay, we'll come back. Yeah, it's such a big topic. Dr. Boardman, let's hear from you. Thank you, everyone, so far.
Hi, everybody. So I want to talk about some ongoing things. Thank you, Dr. Wilson, for the the push about talking about some things that are going to happening at UTA or happening in the future, and from a selfish perspective, ask you guys who are interested and want to be involved to help kind of direct some of that of some things that I'm doing. So I want to talk about that. Before I get into that, I do want to mention I use LinkedIn Learning in a different way. I really use it as a replacement for my textbook. So in one of my classes, I don't use a textbook. I have just gone through, and I will say it was a big front end time that it took me, because I went through and watched a lot of videos and kind of curated a list that matched the things that we were doing in class. And then I assigned those videos, much like you'd assign chapters in a textbook for students to read. So they don't take I don't have them take the quizzes. They don't earn anything from LinkedIn Learning, but it is a different way to use those videos on LinkedIn Learning. So that's one thing. I also do the Coursera in one of my other classes. I very much, like we've already heard about, assign Coursera modules to students that match up. And I would say if anybody, if you're feeling like, because how I felt when I first started hearing about Coursera specifically, my thought was, why are we promoting this kind of what I felt like was almost a competitor, and it just kind of didn't make sense to me. And if you're feeling like that, my suggestion to you is go take one of those Coursera courses yourself, and you will see that it is a totally different thing than what we do at the university and in the classroom. I think that they can be complementary. I don't think there's ever a worry that something like Coursera is going to replace what we do in the classroom. It's just, I feel like like they're value added to each other. So like I said, I use one of the Coursera's. I assign the modules as homework. Students take the quizzes. The quiz gets put into their Canvas grade book, and it's really just a supplement to what we do in class. Some of the things they talk about, my class, we do a lot of Excel, and so this is a Microsoft Excel course, and for instance, in the Coursera course, they talk a whole lot about shortcuts. I don't talk about shortcuts. I'm not a shortcut person. I don't want to spend time talking about shortcuts, but students like it and it helps them. So it's a real kind of complementary relationship, I feel like, between what we do in class and what they learn from the Coursera. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that I have used both of those things. But what I wanted to spend my time talking about today is this project that I'm working on through the Nationwide Insurance Faculty Fellowship Program that I was awarded this year. And so one of the project that I proposed and that I'm working on is developing some badges for UTA that you can use in your classes. So this is just being developed. 3 things that I want to talk about today are we are also, in conjunction with that, developing some career readiness competencies that can be used across all disciplines and all levels at UTA to help students communicate some of the things other than the skills that they're getting in class, these competencies that kind of we used to call the soft skills. I don't think they use that term anymore, but so we're developing those. Then the second step is, and those have really kind of, at least the first draft of those is complete. The second step is we want to help faculty to kind of map these career readiness competencies to the student learning objectives that they already have in their classrooms, so that students can see, without you having to do anything extra, students and you can see how what they're already doing, they're gaining some of these competencies. And then the third step is to develop some badges around those competencies and their learning outcomes and the mapping between those, so that students can communicate those competencies and other skills as they get ready to go get a job. So Peggy, next slide. Thank you. So these are, I said we had kind of got a first draft of career competencies. This is, I think though, that I think this is the whole list of where we are now. So you can see some of those. Oh, crazy slides. One more right there. Thanks.
Sorry, Bonnie.
That's okay. So things like collaboration and communication, and then we have a whole lot of detail about what do each of these things mean, what do behaviors look like that students can see, or they've developed these things because they are exhibiting these behaviors. So these are the competencies, at least that we've started with. These overlap kind of 3 things. Most of them are this is in conjunction with the Career Development Center, the Division of Student Success, and the Provost Office, and I are all working on these. And so a lot of these come from kind of the career readiness, career development world. We've also included things here that come from the state of Texas core competencies. So if you teach a class that's in the core curriculum, you'll see all of these same competencies that are listed in our core curriculum. And then also some Mav Advantage kind of overlap with those 3 things. So these competencies cover those 3 things. So that was the first step. And then the second step on the next slide is we want to look at helping faculty map. So what I have here is just on the left-hand column is just a subset, not all of those competencies, but a subset of those competencies I just talked about. And then the 3 middle columns are shortened learning objectives from one of my classes. So I have 3 learning objectives, one that has to do with data analysis, one that has to do with Excel proficiency, and one has to do with communicating about data. And so this mapping shows kind kind of how each of those competencies map with the student learning outcomes that I have in my class. And then the right-hand column is, so let me say this was AI developed. So I put in the information about the competencies. I put in my syllabus so that the learning objectives and what was being, excuse me, what the assignments and all of that were shown in the syllabus. And I asked the AI to do this mapping. And anywhere where the mapping said medium, so I asked it to do a low, medium, high, how much there was a overlap between the two. And then I also asked it anywhere that it said medium, how would AI suggest that I raise that to a high? Is there something extra I could do to go from a medium from a high? So this is was just a quick and dirty. Another thing I'm thinking about doing, and I've talked with some other people at the university, is developing an AI agent to help do this more completely, and maybe also help select some rubrics to use for. So anyway, that's ongoing if you're interested in that. And then finally, we want to look at some badges, so ways that we can take those competencies, and anywhere that you see an overlap between your student learning objectives and those workforce readiness competencies, there could be some badges developed that you could use in your classroom. So you could assign a Canvas badge, match up a Canvas badge with an assignment. And then if the student does reaches whatever minimum grade on the assignment, then they would automatically be awarded this badge in Canvas, and it would be a way, the badge would show what the competencies were that were accomplished by earning that, and then that would be a way for students to communicate. Because what we kind of find is students are getting a lot of these competencies already in their classes, but they don't really know how to communicate those. They're better at communicating skills that they learned, but they're not as good as communicating these kind of workforce competencies that they are getting. They just don't really realize. So we hope that this will be a way. So now the pitch I want to make to you, where we are right now in this process is starting to develop the training for helping faculty match up the competency, learn about the competencies, and then match those with their learning objectives. And maybe use the AI tool that we're developing to do so. That will be the first step, and then the badging will be the second step. If you are interested in that at all, please send me an email. We will be looking for faculty to kind of run through this process, to help get going, to help look at how to put this in their syllabus, look how to communicate it to their students. So if you're interested, my email is in the chat. Please send me an email. We'll be looking for people who are interested in working on this. So thank you very much.
Sounds good. Thanks for being another MVP of Microcredentials, Bonnie. We really appreciate your and I put a link to a little. Bonnie and I recorded a YouTube video about her work replacing some of her or all of your textbooks with LinkedIn Learning, right? And so that's an interesting little conversation we had. That's further up in the chat. Just want to say that we will be recapping this. So if you feel like it's a fire hose, we will condense it down to a blog post for you later. So, and then again, the slides are in the chat. Thank you. A round of applause for Dr. Boardman. We're so excited for your work. And again, Dr. Wilson, thanks for your leadership in this role. The emphasis in this session again goes back to the 2024 Institute, which was a great launch into this. And so let's see, were we done with you, Dr. Boardman? Okay, just want to make sure. We're going to turn it over to Dr. Spivey and then round things out with Dr. Perez Cortez from Education. So take it away, Christy.
Thank you. I'm Christy in the Department of Economics in the College of Business, and I just wanted to mention what I do in one of my online courses. This is a course that's required of our majors. It's a data literacy and visualization course. So I use Coursera. It's a course called a Coursera guided project. And my specific one is data visualization in Tableau, create dashboards and stories. So in my course, students are working with, you can keep it on the previous slide.
Okay,
in my course, students are working with Tableau, which is a data visualization program, and they're working with it from the beginning of the course, and they learn how to create different graphs, different tables, and then they learn how to create dashboards, which is an example of a dashboard is here, where you can see different graphs in a space, and they're generally all linked together. And then the last thing they do in my course is learn how to create data stories, which is how to tell a story with various dashboards and graphs, and has multiple views. It's not just in one workspace. So in this particular, you can still keep it on the previous one, sorry. In this particular micro-credential, I wanted to emphasize a couple of things. This is something they do at the end. So it's basically like a capstone project. And this really teaches them how to create data stories. So it assumes they already know how to create all the other things. And so it takes them, I would say, probably 3 to 4 hours total, maybe a little bit less for some. And the micro-credential, it's basically a series of videos showing them how to create these data stories. And to get the certification at the end, they have to take an exam. It's not super long, and they have to earn 80%, and they have a number of tries. Now, it's not, what I did not like about that is that, yes, it's testing their knowledge on certain things, but it's not having them actually show that they can create these things in Tableau. So what I did for the assessment is I combined the quiz or exam they take in Coursera with my own assignment, which actually has them replicate some of the things in the videos and then take it a step further. So for purposes of the grade, most of the grade is actually the assignment that I create, but it's completely based on what they're learning in the videos in Coursera. And then a smaller part of the grade is the actual quiz or exam they take at the end to earn the micro-credential. So it's actually not that hard for them to earn this micro-credential, but then combined with my assignment, I feel better about assessing that they actually know how to do these things. Okay, so now we can go to the next slide. So I just wanted to show you, as a number of people have said, you definitely want to share the benefits with your students. So this is just a snapshot of what I put in Canvas for my students. And then I tell them the benefits, and then I share articles, which are being shared in the chat now, about how UT Arlington is embracing micro-credentials. And one of them is from Coursera itself, and then the others are from UTA. And then last, you can go ahead to the next slide. I also share with them how to actually advertise the micro-credential. So we want them to put it on LinkedIn, we want them to put it on their CV, but then I provide this link to show them how to actually do it. So I like to just give them all the links. I put this in the getting started module, but then I also remind them, like once they get to the end of the course, when they're actually completing the micro-credential, I remind them of these things that I've presented in the beginning of the course. So I have had a good experience with Coursera. I think it does work pretty well technologically in Canvas. Someone mentioned previously that it can take the grades 24 hours to show up. So that's been my one little hiccup with it in terms of technology, is that I do have to go in manually and remove the late status from the Canvas gradebook because it does take a while for those grades to show up. So it will show up late if they submitted it the day it's due, since it will take up to 24 hours to get to Canvas. So that's my only minor issue with this whole process, but overall it's been, I think, very beneficial for the students, and they seem to have really positive feedback. So I'll stop there and happy to answer questions now or later.
Perfect. Thank you. Round of applause for Dr. Spivey. We're going to hand the baton over to Dr. Perez Cortez from College of Ed. We're going to keep our questions to chat for now, and then if we have extra time, we'll revisit those. Coursera is covered, I believe, through the UT system, funds that license, and it's available to us locally. So someone asked about cost, it's included. And so in that blog post I keep posting, we've focused on the ones we already have access to. We're not getting into self-created ones or anything, but the LinkedIn Learning, the Coursera, we already have access to those for free. Somebody's paying for them, but not out of our own individual pockets. So Dr. Perez Cortez, take it away.
Of course, thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you to everybody who's already talked and everyone who's still here for the very last presenter. I'm excited to talk about microcredentials, of course. And I want to start with, why do this? I think it's a question that was addressed earlier, but I think it's always important to go and start with the why of things. So if we can go to the next slide, Peggy, that'd be great. So when I think about expanding these learning pathways, right, I think it really comes down or comes from what I've seen with students and with faculty. I think a lot of students are looking for learning experiences that really don't just live inside of the class that they're taking, right, for the exam or for the grade or for the semester. I think they really want things that they can point to and they can kind of show off and just carry with them beyond the class project that they do for grade. I think it's been like that for a long time, but I think it's great that nowadays these resources are more available and we know more about them. But for me, I think microcredentials and platforms like LinkedIn Learning, I think they work best as something that I consider as adjacent, basically treating them as something that's extending their learning instead of substituting it. Or what I already do in my class or my courses. And there was a question in here earlier in the chat about the resistance to these things being, well, I could have done this without paying for tuition. Why would I need to? Why is this worthwhile? So we've already talked about that, and we're happy to revisit the topic, of course. But in the next slide, I'll talk about one thing I did as part of this Microcred Institute of 2024. And so this is a case study of gamification microcred. I teach a class in non-microcredentials in gamification and game-based learning. So this is what I used in that graduate course. This was an external microcredential that was offered by Verizon and Digital Promise. Verizon, the phone company, I guess their parent company is interested in these things. And I was very intentional about making it optional, right? So I framed it as a bonus activity that they can complete in my course and not as a requirement. Now, only a few students completed it. It was about 3 the first time I taught it. And then the second time I taught the class, I also had the microcredential. No one completed it. And honestly, that was okay. I saw this as a pathway for the students who wanted to go deeper and apply what they were already learning in my class in a way that would essentially net them an additional credential that they could show off while still, also applying their ideas in their actual context. I teach mostly educators to some degree, or people who want to be educators to some degree. And using things in their real context is something that I ask them to do in my assignments anyway, but this is just something that would also net them that external credential of sorts. And then the next slide. Yeah, so why this microcredential worked and some of the limits, right? So in my opinion, I think what worked with this one specifically is that it's more than just kind of watching videos and answering quiz questions. In my experience with things like LinkedIn Learning, that's a lot of what I see there, which is fine. But I think this is a little bit more involved in a good way. I think students had to actually design and implement a gamified learning activity in their real world context. They also had to document it with photos or pictures, and then also write a reflection. And for this specific one, there was a human review process on the back end, right? So the students had to submit this to Verizon and Digital Promise and wait a while for an actual human to get to it, look at the pictures, read the reflections, and judge whether they did or didn't do enough to earn the microcredential. But because of that, knowing that that takes time and that's external to me, and I'm not involved in that kind of grading at all, to keep things fair in my course, I didn't wait for that external review to finish, and I gave students the credit, or the bonus credit in my case, as long as they showed me proof that they had submitted their materials for that human review. And that worked out fine. Still on the last slide, that mattered to me a lot. I think, like I already mentioned, I don't see external microcredits as something I would personally require, but they can be really powerful, I think, as optional and applied extensions to something that we're already doing in class. And now, next slide, go ahead. So this bigger vision, I have this slide here because I just want to talk about, I think all of us have this to some degree, but I want to kind of talk and maybe spark the conversation again, right? So I think this experience helped clarify what I'd like to build next. Ideally, I'd love to see a UTA-based microcredential that, or microcredentials broadly speaking. And I see myself as building one in gamified learning, and for now at least, housed in the College of Education, which is where I'm from. And I see it as something that could stand alone for professionals who aren't UTA students, but that they could also stack it into coursework if they were to later join our program or our college. I think that approach keeps things flexible, right, while also kind of letting us maintain kind of a little bit more control over the course content and align it with learning goals and things like that. And just give as many people the opportunity to engage with the content as possible, whether they are currently students or maybe just prospective students. So that's kind of the bigger vision, or a bigger vision I have there with that. And I also have a little bit of experience with LinkedIn Learning, but not from the point of view of me as a faculty picking things for my students to engage with. It's more of a perspective of me as faculty engaging with it for my own credentialing or extending of my credentialing. So I want to talk briefly about LinkedIn Learning from that perspective. Now, I've completed several courses there myself. I did that especially in my first couple of years here at UTA, and I really value that experience. I think it was great. One unexpected thing or impact that it had on me was that it kind of changed the way that I think about online teaching and learning. I thought that seeing those well-scripted and intentionally kind of produced content on LinkedIn Learning made me rethink how I design my own lectures and record them. And so that was great. Now, I haven't yet found content that aligns cleanly enough to embed directly into my courses and the topics that I teach there. But I also haven't looked into it recently either. And I'm sure that there's a lot of really good stuff that's been updated there recently. Still, like I said, I think LinkedIn Learning is excellent. It's a great resource. It's free for us since we're already part of UTA and faculty development. And I think the self-paced of it is wonderful. And I think students think the same thing too. And then the third case that I have here is on AI in education. This is something that it's a 15-hour microcredential on adapting instruction and assessment with Gen AI. I know there's one at UTA. I think we mentioned it earlier. But this one was external. It's from an external organization called AI and Education. And it was pretty intensive. 15 hours is, I think, pretty high up there in my personal opinion for a microcredential. But I pursued it because we were developing a near-graduate program focused on AI and education in the College of Ed. I made the case that me being in this learning experience directly supported that goal that we had at the time for the program that we were building. And the cost was then just fully covered by UTA/the College of Education. So my point, I bring this up because even if you see something that's outside of UTA that or outside of something that UTA is already subscribed to, it doesn't hurt to ask. Maybe you can also get it covered if you make a case well enough for why that's something you should have experience in. So next slide, and I think final slide for me are the takeaways. So I think stepping back from this, my biggest takeaway is that expanding these learning paths is great when they're additive, when they're kind of optional and clearly bounded by time, right, and effort and a period in the semester they have to complete it. And the way I see it, I don't look to replace my own content, although that's great. I think people do it and do a wonderful job at it. And you can kind of see there's definitely an impact in how much students are willing to engage with it. In my case, it was optional. 3 students completed it. In other cases I've seen, it was required and pretty much everyone completed it. So duh, right? But what I want to do is curate optional opportunities that support engagement and workforce readiness. And I think doing it in that way was great. And if there's one small thing that I'd encourage you to do in the next week, I think it's, no problem. It's just don't start by redesigning the course, obviously, right? Start by, I think, experiencing a pathway yourself. I think this is something that was brought up earlier already. Just get your own experience with it so you have a better idea of what you're trying to put into your course. Pick a direction you're most curious about and just take one low commitment step, right? If it's a microcredential that's external, just skim it. Skim one, look closely at what it's doing, what it's counting as evidence or evidence of learning, what its application process, if there is one, is to get it is, and just kind of review how it actually works. If it's something like LinkedIn Learning, which you already have free access to, complete a short course, right? Or even just a single module, and kind of just pay attention to how the content is structured, how it's paced, and how it's produced even. So camera angles, backgrounds, all those things I think were helpful. And if it's something that's institutional, an institutional microcredential, I think that if it interests you, just have a what if conversation with your colleague or program lead. You don't know what that might lead to, which is what I did with mine for AI, and it was paid for, and that was great to take it. So that's it.
Yeah, and I saw you posted about that on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is a great way to see what everybody else is doing. I think you can kind of lurk and see what people like our colleagues are doing, or even what some people are doing with their students. So a big round of applause to everyone. And Louise, I loved your point. I forgot in the Microcredential Institute, they did require us to complete the microcredential ourselves and to note kind of sticking points. I don't forget what they call them, just areas where the students may have issues, pressure points, whatever, there's a term for it. Anything that's difficult or challenging, so you could alert them as they go down that path. So I think that's another great tip. There was so much that we benefited from, and it's great to have a reunion here with everyone to hear about the leadership going on with Dr. Wilson, Bonnie as a faculty leader and mentor. Everybody's emails are in the slide deck. We encourage you to share the slide deck. You know, maybe do the SkyPack course. It's a mini course, and you get a microcredential on microcredentials. I love what Louise said, continue the dialogue. I think that's really important, and then just stay tuned in general, but definitely check out LinkedIn Learning, definitely check out Coursera. Those are the low-hanging fruit kind of microcredentials you all have access to right now. And then if you look in the chat, we have our feedback survey. We have some great comments. So maybe later in the day while the ice is thawing, you can go back and look through those. So just another round of applause for everyone. Check the chat window when you have more time. And feel free to write delayed thoughts in the chat. We'll still have it. So any delayed thoughts you want to share. But thanks to everyone. I'll be running over to another meeting, so we'll be ending this in just a few seconds. So have a good afternoon, and thanks to our panelists.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks everyone.